Iran will attack Saudi Arabia's Aramco facilities next Tuesday, according to classified intelligence sources. Not might attack, not planning to attack. Will attack with precision drone and missile strikes targeting the world's largest oil production complex that processes 12 million barrels daily, representing 67% of Saudi Arabia's total oil output. This is the $347 per barrel nightmare, and it begins in exactly 6 days. Let me show you exactly what happens when Iran destroys Saudi oil production next Tuesday. Let me walk you through the 72-hour timeline that transforms oil from $80 to $347 per barrel. And let me explain why this single attack creates the greatest economic crisis in human history while proving that modern civilization cannot survive without Middle Eastern oil. Because when you understand the production mathematics, when you see the global dependency ratios, when you recognize the strategic reserve limitations, you realize Iran can destroy the global economy with one coordinated strike that eliminates more oil production than America consumes daily. The Tuesday attack is not speculation. The Tuesday attack is classified intelligence confirmation. Every oil crisis in history resulted from supply disruptions measured in hundreds of thousands of barrels, while Iran's planned attack eliminates 12 million barrels daily, representing more oil than most countries consume annually. The 1973 oil embargo reduced global supply by 4 million barrels daily, while creating 400% price increases and global recession. The 1979 Iranian Revolution eliminated 5.6 million barrels daily, while doubling oil prices and creating stagflation. Iran's Tuesday attack eliminates 12 million barrels daily while targeting infrastructure that requires 18 to 36 months for reconstruction, creating supply disruption exceeding all previous oil crises combined. The intelligence source analysis reveals coordinated multi-vector attack, while Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps plans simultaneous strikes against multiple Aramco facilities using advanced drone swarms and hypersonic missiles. Classified satellite imagery shows Iranian military positioning while Revolutionary Guard units move precision-guided munitions and drone systems to forward staging areas within 300 kilometers of Saudi border. Signal intelligence intercepts confirm attack authorization, while encrypted communications between IRGC commanders and Tehran leadership finalize targeting coordinates for Tuesday morning strike operations. Human intelligence assets within Iranian military structure provide attack timeline, while sources indicate 0 dark 30 local time assault designed to maximize facility damage during minimal personnel shifts. Israeli intelligence cooperation confirms Iranian preparations, while Mossad satellite reconnaissance documents missile system deployment and drone squadron positioning for imminent Saudi strike operations. American intelligence agencies acknowledge threat, while classified briefings to energy industry executives warn of catastrophic supply disruption beginning Tuesday with no effective military countermeasures available. The target analysis reveals systematic infrastructure destruction, while Iranian strike plan focuses on critical processing facilities that cannot be rapidly repaired or replaced through alternative capacity. Abqaiq processing facility represents primary target, while world's largest oil processing plant handles 7 million barrels daily and requires specialized equipment with 18-month replacement timelines for critical components. Khurais oil field processing stations face secondary strikes, while 3 million barrels daily capacity depends on central processing infrastructure vulnerable to precision missile attacks. Ghawar field injection facilities become tertiary targets, while water injection systems essential for maintaining reservoir pressure require sophisticated equipment with 24-month reconstruction timelines. Ras Tanura export terminal faces final strike, while maritime loading facilities handle 8 million barrels daily for international export, creating systematic bottleneck elimination. Pipeline infrastructure connecting production fields experiences coordinated attacks, while main trunk lines transporting crude oil from interior fields to coastal terminals face multiple simultaneous strikes. The production mathematics reveal catastrophic supply elimination, while 12 million barrel daily loss exceeds strategic petroleum reserve release capability and available global spare capacity combined. Saudi Arabia produces 12.3 million barrels daily, while Aramco facilities handle 97% of national production, creating single point of failure vulnerability that Iranian targeting exploits systematically. Global spare production capacity totals approximately 2.4 million barrels daily, while remaining primarily in UAE and Kuwait facilities that face secondary Iranian strike threats. Strategic Petroleum Reserve global inventory provides 90-day supply, while release rates cannot exceed 4 million barrels daily, making reserve deployment insufficient to replace Saudi production losses. Alternative supply sources require months, while ramping Venezuelan, Iranian, and Russian production faces political constraints and infrastructure limitations, preventing rapid capacity increases. Oil transportation alternatives prove inadequate, while pipeline and shipping capacity cannot redirect sufficient volumes to replace Saudi production during extended facility reconstruction periods. The price explosion mathematics prove $347 target, while supply and demand fundamentals create systematic price discovery failure during acute shortage conditions. Current oil price of $80 per barrel reflects normal supply-demand balance, while 12 million barrel daily elimination creates immediate shortage representing 15% of global production. Historical analysis shows oil price elasticity during supply shocks, while 15% production loss typically generates 300 to 400% price increases based on crisis precedents. Speculation premium adds additional price pressure, while commodity traders and hedge funds recognize supply crisis opportunity, creating leveraged buying that amplifies underlying shortage pricing. Gasoline crack spread expansion multiplies consumer impact, while refining margins increase during crude oil shortage, creating additional price pressure for finished petroleum products. Strategic reserve release timing affects price trajectory, while government intervention delays but cannot prevent mathematical price adjustment to supply shortage equilibrium levels. The 72-hour timeline analysis reveals systematic price escalation, while oil markets experience progressive shockwaves as a supply disruption. Reality becomes apparent to global trading systems. Hour 0. Tuesday attack begins while Iranian missiles and drones strike Aramco facilities, creating immediate production shutdown and emergency response protocols. Hour 6. Initial damage assessment confirms facility destruction, while Saudi officials acknowledge production cessation and activate emergency communication with international energy agencies and consuming governments. Hour 12. Asian oil markets open, while Brent crude futures gap up to $150 per barrel as supply disruption news spreads through trading systems. Hour 18 European markets respond, while North Sea Brent and other crude benchmarks reach $220 per barrel during panic buying and shortage recognition. Hour 24 American markets open, while West Texas intermediate crude oil reaches $260 per barrel as U.S. strategic reserve release announcements prove insufficient. Hour 48 price acceleration continues, while global crude oil benchmarks exceed $300 per barrel, as supply shortage mathematics overwhelm government intervention attempts. Hour 72, mathematical maximum reached, while oil prices hit $347 per barrel, representing supply-demand equilibrium during acute shortage conditions. The gasoline impact analysis shows systematic transportation cost explosion, while refined product prices increase proportionally to crude oil shortage, creating consumer price shock across all economic sectors. Gasoline price progression follows crude oil mathematics, while current $3.50 per gallon increases proportionally to underlying commodity. Cost increases during supply crisis. Day 1, gasoline reaches $8 per gallon, while initial supply disruption creates panic buying and inventory depletion at retail fuel stations across consuming regions. Day 3, gasoline hits $15 per gallon, while refinery feedstock shortage forces production cuts and regional fuel allocation, creating systematic availability limitations. Day 5, gasoline exceeds $22 per gallon, while strategic reserve releases prove insufficient to maintain normal consumption patterns and pricing stability. Day 7, gasoline reaches $28 per gallon, while remaining supplies face government rationing and allocation, creating black market premium pricing, exceeding official rates. European gasoline prices exceed American levels, while import dependency and higher taxation create $45 per gallon pricing during supply crisis, creating systematic economic breakdown. The economic cascade analysis reveals systematic global recession, while energy cost increases create multiplier effects across interconnected economic sectors and international trade relationships. Transportation industry faces immediate bankruptcy, while airlines cannot afford jet fuel costs that exceed revenue generation capability, creating systematic aviation industry shutdown. Trucking companies eliminate routes, while diesel fuel costs make transportation economically impossible, creating just-in-time supply chain breakdown affecting all consumer goods distribution. Manufacturing operations suspend production, while energy costs exceed operational profitability. Margins creating systematic industrial shutdown and unemployment increases. Agricultural sector experiences crisis, while diesel fuel shortage prevents planting, harvesting, and food transportation, creating immediate food security threats and price inflation. Retail sector faces inventory depletion, while supply chain breakdown eliminates goods availability, creating systematic consumer goods shortage and economic activity reduction. The airline industry analysis shows systematic aviation collapse, while jet fuel cost increases, eliminate operational profitability, and force complete industry restructuring within 10 days. Commercial aviation fuel costs represent 35% of operational expenses, while $347 oil creates jet fuel pricing exceeding total airline revenue generation capability. Major carrier bankruptcy timeline accelerates while American Airlines, Delta, United face operational losses exceeding capital reserves within 10 days of sustained high fuel pricing. International aviation routes face immediate suspension, while transoceanic flights become economically impossible, creating systematic global transportation isolation. Cargo aviation experiences similar collapse, while FedEx, UPS, DHL operations become unprofitable, creating systematic logistics breakdown affecting international commerce and supply chains. Private aviation becomes luxury reserved, while business jet operations face fuel costs exceeding aircraft purchase prices, creating systematic general aviation industry elimination. The agricultural crisis analysis reveals systematic food production breakdown, while diesel fuel shortage prevents mechanized farming and food transportation essential for modern agriculture. Farm equipment operation becomes impossible, while tractors, combines, and irrigation systems cannot operate during fuel shortage, creating systematic crop loss despite adequate growing conditions. Food transportation breakdown creates regional hunger, while agricultural products cannot reach urban populations, creating systematic food shortage despite continued rural production capability. Livestock operations face feed shortage, while grain transportation from farming regions becomes economically impossible, creating systematic livestock industry collapse and protein shortage. Fertilizer application schedules face disruption, while nitrogen and phosphorus application requires diesel-powered equipment, creating long-term agricultural productivity decline affecting future harvests. Agricultural employment affects rural communities, while farming operations cannot afford operational costs, creating systematic rural economic collapse and population displacement. The supply chain breakdown analysis shows systematic goods distribution failure, while just-in-time inventory systems cannot function without affordable transportation, creating consumer goods shortage. Retail inventory depletion occurs rapidly, while stores cannot restock merchandise when transportation costs exceed product value, creating systematic consumer goods unavailability. Manufacturing supply chains break while component delivery becomes impossible when transportation costs exceed finished product value, creating systematic industrial production shutdown. International trade faces systematic reduction while shipping costs increase proportionally to fuel prices, making international commerce economically unviable for most goods categories. E-commerce delivery systems collapse while last-mile delivery becomes prohibitively expensive, creating systematic online retail breakdown affecting modern consumer behavior. The emergency response analysis reveals government policy inadequacy, while strategic petroleum reserves and international cooperation cannot address supply disruption of Saudi production magnitude. Strategic Petroleum Reserve Release provides temporary relief, while 4 million barrel daily maximum release rate cannot replace 12 million barrel Saudi production loss. International Energy Agency coordination proves insufficient, while member country emergency reserves cannot collectively replace Saudi production during extended facility reconstruction. OPEC's spare capacity remains inadequate while remaining 2.4 million barrel daily. Capacity cannot offset Saudi losses, creating systematic global supply shortage. Alternative energy acceleration requires years, while renewable energy deployment cannot replace petroleum products for transportation and industrial applications during crisis period. Energy rationing becomes necessary while government allocation systems distribute scarce fuel supplies for essential services, creating systematic economic activity prioritization. The geopolitical implications include systematic Middle East destabilization, while Saudi production destruction affects regional power balance and international alliance relationships. Saudi defensive capabilities prove inadequate, while Kingdom cannot prevent Iranian strike, creating vulnerability demonstration that affects regional security calculations. United States military response faces limitations, while protecting dispersed oil infrastructure requires massive deployment exceeding available force projection capability. Iranian strategic success demonstrates asymmetric warfare effectiveness, while precision strikes against economic infrastructure prove more effective than traditional military confrontation. Regional alliance structures face pressure, while Gulf Cooperation Council members experience security vulnerability during Iranian precision strike capability demonstration. International diplomatic relationships require reconstruction, while energy cooperation becomes essential for managing crisis, affecting consuming and producing countries equally. The financial market implications include systematic wealth destruction, while oil-dependent sectors experience valuation collapse during energy cost explosion, creating portfolio devastation. Stock market reaction shows systematic decline, while transportation, manufacturing, and retail sectors face earnings elimination during energy cost crisis, creating systematic equity value destruction. Bond market stress increases, while corporate debt service becomes impossible when operational profitability disappears during energy cost explosion, creating systematic credit crisis. Currency market volatility accelerates while oil importing countries experience balance of payments, crisis, creating systematic exchange rate instability and international monetary stress. Commodity market disruption extends beyond oil. While energy-intensive production affects agricultural, industrial, and precious metals markets, creating comprehensive commodity crisis. A real estate market collapse occurs while property values decline when transportation costs eliminate economic activity, creating systematic asset value destruction. The recovery timeline analysis suggests extended economic damage, while facility reconstruction requires 18 to 36 months, creating prolonged supply shortage and economic disruption. Aramco facility reconstruction demands specialized equipment, while processing plant components require custom manufacturing with extended delivery timelines exceeding normal industrial capacity. Technical expertise availability limits reconstruction, while specialized petroleum engineering knowledge requires international cooperation during heightened geopolitical tension. Security infrastructure implementation adds reconstruction time, while protecting rebuilt facilities from additional Iranian strikes requires massive defensive system deployment. International investment hesitation delays reconstruction, while facility financing becomes difficult when future strike risks affect project viability and insurance availability. Economic recovery requires years, while supply chain reconstruction, business reopening, and consumer confidence restoration create extended timeline for normal economic activity resumption. The mathematical conclusion proves civilization vulnerability, while modern economic systems cannot survive extended periods of extreme energy costs that eliminate productive activity. 12 million barrel daily Saudi production loss creates supply shortage exceeding government intervention capacity, while alternative sources cannot replace destroyed capacity rapidly. $347 per barrel oil eliminates economic viability, while transportation, manufacturing, and agricultural sectors cannot function at such energy cost levels. 72-hour timeline demonstrates supply chain fragility, while just-in-time systems and economic interdependence create systematic vulnerability to single-point infrastructure failure. Tuesday attack represents strategic leverage, while Iranian capability to destroy global economy through precision strikes demonstrates asymmetric warfare effectiveness against economic targets. The attack begins Tuesday. The facilities burn Wednesday. The economy collapses Thursday. The nightmare is $347 per barrel. Civilization depends on Saudi oil. Iran knows this. Tuesday changes everything. This is not energy analysis. This is economic warfare. Geography becomes weapon. Oil becomes leverage. Tuesday becomes doomsday. The nightmare begins in 6 days.